feel like I'm in
Oh,
Texas
really?
or something.
Bro, I'm in Boston, dog. It's humid every day.
Yeah, I'm not used to that.
We
We're used to
got
the
somebody who's a new sub-2 student. That's what's up, bro.
yeah, man.
Love that.
I'm in
Love that.
the Avenger Mastermind. So
Yeah, well, that's what's up, bro. I was thinking I'm on
yeah,
IG Live too. Somebody just said on IG Live that they're a new sub-2 student. So I was letting them know on IG Live that this show is dedicated towards getting people their first deal and getting them started.
heck yeah, man.
So
That's why
I'm
I reached
excited.
out. That's why I reached out, man. Yeah, so I've been putting in work now. I've been doing a lot of the OLC, the online learning courses that they
Yep.
offer with a clever investor, and man, it's been gold. It's been gold. Now I learned it. Now I need to put it into play. That's where I'm at right now. I'm like, okay, what's next? And
Love it, bro.
like I shared, I've been I built little mini bikes. I don't know if you had a chance to look at my Instagram, but I cruise on my electric mini bike and just cruise, see what houses need some love and write them down. And I've been calling owners, doing all the good stuff.
That's
So
the first action that I ever taken. That I ever took.
yeah, I
That
was
I
gonna
ever
ask you
took.
that.
That I ever took. That I
Yeah,
ever took in the beginning was just driving for dollars and literally writing them down on a legal pad.
yeah.
And
So
I'll
now
bring
it's
him, I call him, I skip trace him. I'd only do like 20 at a time. At that point, I didn't realize that it's a really big volume game, but it's so important that you're already taking action, bro. That's dope.
yeah. So I mean, that's the thing too. But now that I have the list, so I think when I reached that, I only had like six. But as it's crazy how you like my neighborhood, you just start driving around. Somebody told me to do kind of like a spiral, like start in
Yeah.
one street and just kind of start moving out and out and out, so you won't miss any house. And I have 25 right now because I've been doing it. Now I'm what's it called, skip tracing, trying to get the numbers, the owners, who owns the house. I've been leaving notes, but no one's called yet. So that's
You okay?
another
Well,
thing.
what does your note say?
Uh, uh, Would I put I live around the block. I'm interested in buying your house, or I have two because I do have a mentor, and he
Mhm.
gave me a little that a clever investor supplied, or that
Yep.
he offered us, and I meet with him twice a week. But he did provide a note that says I'm an investor. We focus on what's it called? See if I have it on me. I don't think I do, but it just says that they just focus on making the neighborhood better, and if they were
Yeah, yeah,
interested
yeah.
in selling into, yeah,
Got
just
it.
something like that, yeah.
One
So
thing we just started door knocking like a week and a half ago, and we've been just leaving a simple sticky note. And
oh,
what the sticky note says is, please call me with one of our tracking numbers.
that's
And
it.
they call. That's
That's
it.
it.
And they
All
call
right.
and they're like, what the heck? They're like, who the heck is calling me? They think they're in trouble or something, right? Like they got in a car accident or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Um, so what happens is when we get back on the phone with them, we just act super nonchalant, like, hey, you must have gotten our sticky note. And they're like, yeah, what are you talking about? Oh, I was just around the neighborhood, I just did a project down the street. We were wondering
Okay.
if you ever thought about selling your house. We buy houses all around the city or town or whatever. Right.
Okay.
And then they're like, oh, okay. So at least they get a response. Now
Right.
you get a lot more replies. It's almost like when you're text blasting, you get a ton of people that answer, but you got to filter them out to the people who are the actual leads. But at least you're getting a good response rate, you know?
Right. Yeah. So that's the thing right now that I want to. I mean, you kind of answered my question. My first one was like, what do you do? What was your first move when you very first started? And you pretty much answered it for me. And it was driving for
Love it.
dollars. It's the cheapest one. That's another thing too. I mean, when you start this thing, you don't. I think I'm cutting out. Yeah, you don't have a
Exactly.
lot of money.
Somebody on IG, Winston, just said it's like leaving a ringless voicemail. Have you heard of a ringless voicemail?
Oh yeah, yeah. You just leave a
It's
voicemail.
one
It
of
goes.
those things that you don't actually get a ring. You just look in your phone. There's a voice message there, and
Yeah.
what some people will do is say something like "I miss you," right? And they're like, "What the heck?" It's just to get a response. You just want a response. And then once you get somebody on the phone, as long as you break down their wall and you're just super nonchalant about it, like, hey, yeah, we just buy houses in the area. We just did a project right down the street from you. Just wondering if you ever thought about selling your house. It's just a simple conversation. Worst thing that happens is somebody says, F you, stop coming to my house, don't leave any notes. It's like at that point, it's just on to the next one. You know what I mean?
It's funny you say that because the the mentor told me to call for sale by owner ads on Zillow for the first exercise. He was like, call 20 people on the for sale by owner on Zillow, and then from there you're gonna start getting that muscle, the calling people, seeing how they react. Probably like 75% of these people are pissed off because I'm sure they're getting their phones are just getting blown up by realtors, investors. So I mean, I got a lot of that, but I've noticed that if you just tell them like, hey, you know what, I was just interested. If you're human, right, not a salesperson, you're just human, uh, and just talking to them like a person, they kind of like calm down. But yeah, 75% were pissed off the fact that I was calling them about the house. Yeah, so but yeah, like you say, you just gotta be human, and that little practice or that little exercise did help out as far as talking to people. It's kind of like asking somebody on a date or talking to a girl in the bar, right? The first time
Right.
you do it, you're nervous, but then after that, all the rejections, you kind of like work that muscle, and yeah. So now,
Here's what it is. It's actually what this podcast is called. This podcast is called Release the Chains Podcast. And it's like
oh,
once you release the chains of something, like you finally are released and you can go do it, right? And that's just one thing that you got to release. One thing you got to release is just getting out and talking to people. Now, I wouldn't recommend calling for sale by owners as a strategy to go get deals. I like it though, how your mentor was like, yo, go out there and get your feet wet to start having conversations to break down that wall and release the chains. You know what I mean? Because that's what's gonna lead you to keep taking action. So it's so dope. I love that. But could you tell everybody a little bit about where you started, like how you got into this business, how you got into the Avengers Mastermind, like all of that?
yeah. So I mean, first of all, my name is Samuel Flores Romo. I'm from Riverside, California, so I'm in the IE, Southern California. Um, I started real estate back when I was 24. I bought my first home back when I was 24. It's on an acre lot, so I was able to, I guess they call it house hacking. So I fit my since day one, I knew that house was going to be my money house. So I fixed up the front house and I rented it out and built a container in the back. And I stay in the container, so I don't pay rent. The tenants are paying the mortgage, and I'm cash flowing about probably like $2,000 a month from that
Okay.
from rent. Yeah, so I'm pretty much living free. This is my little container. Oh, wrong way, I guess. Here, see, you guys can see it. Little container home that I have dialed in over here.
Okay.
Um, the way I found out about clever investors because I follow Cole Hatter, and on one of his posts before Clever Summit was a thing, that he started posting that they needed volunteers. So I wasn't even part of the. I didn't even pay to go to the event. I was a volunteer at the event, and
Interesting. Okay.
yeah. So I mean, they say the only thing you needed to do. I did work my ass off. They had me running around, so it was. But I met a bunch of cool people, right? So it was a blast. I had a blast. Uh, but from
What
there,
made you go be a volunteer? Like, what made you be like, oh, this is a good idea?
you know what? I've been listening to a lot of like, I wouldn't say motivational speak, but kind of like Andy Frisella,
Yep.
uh, Tim Ferriss,
Hmm.
and in one of the podcasts, Tim Ferriss says if you want to get too close to like high performers, you gotta do something different. And he said that he used to volunteer to get to these people before he became Tim Ferriss. So it was kind of funny because right after that ad for the Clever Summit came up that they needed volunteers. So I was like, oh shoot, I guess the universe is saying like, hey dude, there's your chance, give it a shot. But I felt like I was plateauing, so I needed to do something different. And I've always been interested in real estate. It's just that there's always that I don't know it. I don't know the systems. I tried it before, but I didn't have the mentors or the people or the access to people that I have now, which is night and
Right.
day now. Like, I'm reaching out to
Hmm.
you, and, and I know you're in the game, and I haven't done anything, but just you reaching out, I'm like, number one, I'm thankful because you're reaching. I mean, you're helping people out, right? But it's just I'm trying to hang out with people that I want to be, or kind of like, you know, like they say, you're the five people you're hanging around with, and I'm trying to move my old friends that they're just partying and they have their 9 to 5s because I don't want that because I think different and I want to move to these other people, and that's exactly the people that I met at Clever Summit. Most of the
Hmm.
people, are, yeah, with that they have that mentality. Yeah,
That's good, bro. I love that. It's actually when you asked me how I got started, if you asked me that before, I would have answered like this. I would have said, you know, I dove deep on a lot of Gary V content.
yep, Gary V.
And one of the things I got from Gary V was, hey, you got to go provide some value and hang around these people that are doing the things that you want to do. So what I ended up doing is I ended up asking a fix and flipper in my area if I could come just help him do demo and anything that he needed, project management or whatever. Could I just go help him for free? And in return, he ended up just coaching me up on the game, and he'd walk properties with me and say, hey, this is what needs to be done. These are the numbers. He taught me a little bit of marketing. And that's really how I got started. And then the first real action item that I took was just driving for dollars. The crazy part is nothing ever came from the driving for dollars because I wasn't consistent with it. I didn't get my first deal until I hired a virtual assistant. And then even I didn't get my first deal after that until like 4 months out of hiring that virtual assistant. So my first deal came from a virtual assistant cold calling a lead, them saying that they're interested in selling, and the deal being pushed up to me and me closing it. That's how I got my first deal. But yeah, dude, that's amazing. That it's essentially the same thing. You were listening to these influencers and people that are already at a high level, and they said, "Hey, go do this," and you did it.
Right,
And that's the
exactly.
first step. And now you're plugged in. Now you're in the right rooms, right? And shout out to Cole. Cole is actually the first. I don't know if I want to say influencer or just first big investor that I heard from. I actually, the very first time I really heard about wholesaling and fixing and flipping and all these things was on the radio. And it was like, hey, do you want to learn how to get into radio? I mean, get into real estate for no money down? I'm like, yeah, amazing. So I went to one of the events. It was like a 2 hour conference, and then they sign you up for the 3 day workshop. Cole was the speaker at the 3 day workshop. He spoke
Oh,
for all
nice.
3 days. And it's super funny. I told him this because I went for a run with him um, at the Avengers meetup in Boston. And I was like, bro, it's so crazy. Literally, it was like 3 or 4 years ago that happened. I was a chicken and I wouldn't even come up to you and have a conversation with you back then because I'm like, this guy's on stage. He's doing these big investment things. I have no idea. I just came here. I don't know what the heck I'm doing. And I never even went up to him at that event. And now I'm sitting here running around Boston with you, hanging out with you. Like, I'm like, this is kind of crazy.
Crazy,
Uh,
yeah. It's
but yeah, sure.
intimidating. Like for me not being around those type of people, like even at the Avengers, it was kind of intimidating. But they're people, man. In my head, it's
Mhm.
like if they could do it, I could do it, right? Like you just have to change that thing in your head to take action, and that's what a lot of people. That's what I was lacking too. Just like scared, like kind of like
Mhm.
you took action. You went to that meetup, and so, but yeah, it's wild. Even me just hanging out with Cole, Cody, Pace, they were just right there talking. It's crazy if you think
It
about
really
it.
is.
Yeah,
Dude,
right.
it's getting in the right rooms um, to switch your mindset a little bit
Yep.
and to put off some light bulbs. And
Yeah.
once those light bulbs start going off, then and you start taking action, it's like, bro, it's inevitable that you're gonna start crushing it.
Yeah.
So as far as the OLC, I haven't really listened to any of those modules yet, but I'm assuming that they're like the how-tos of how to wholesale, how to pull lists, and how to talk to sellers and all these things. Is that what it is?
Yeah. So it starts from like for beginners, which I think I am. Like I didn't know like I said, it's been gold for me because they start you from first point, and then you just work your way down. The thing is that now that I'm older, I get it. It takes time, and you mentioned it, like from the first time that you start actually like getting a virtual assistant calling, took you 4 months to actually get the first deal. I mean, it just takes time. That's one thing that you kind of get it kind of dial in. But they show you how to do the website, the Facebook, everything. They just break it down for you, and all you have to do is do the steps. If you do the steps, I think you're good. I mean, I'm struggling because I'm not computer savvy. I'm more hands on. That's why I'm more inclined of driving, and I'm more action
Mm-hmm.
driven than sitting down on the computer building my website. And also another thing I was going to ask you too, like who built your websites, and all the lead generation tools that you have going on for your business. Who does all that for you, or do you just do it? Sit down, have a schedule, and just Mondays is going to be da, or is that how you work?
No, so in the beginning, that's kind of how I was. And I don't want to steer you in a direction. If your goal is to just get a deal done, then I don't want to steer you in this direction right away because I don't think it's the right advice. But in the beginning, what I did is I was doing everything, right?
Okay.
Like I was pulling lists, I was managing all the virtual assistants, I was doing the lead management, I was closing, I was doing the dispositions, I was doing legitimately everything. Everything that you could think about on how to make money in a wholesaling business, I was doing. The only thing that I wasn't doing was generating the lead, like actually talking to the seller in the beginning, saying, "Hey, you interested in selling your property?" So I never done that. I just always had a virtual assistant that called these people, said, "Yeah, Mike, I have a lead for you." Boom. They would put in the system, but I'm the one that managed the CRM, and I was doing everything in the beginning. And essentially, I was just doing too much, but it did lead me to my first deal. Now, here's what happened. Before I got into sub two, um, I hired my virtual assistant, and I had one virtual assistant for like 2 or 3 months, and I wasn't gaining any traction. I had a couple contracts that fell out, and I'm just like, what the heck? I was getting discouraged. So sub two was like my last shot in the dark, um, because I just from learning on YouTube and all these things, I thought that virtual assistant was the way to go. I'm like, yes, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. Like I found something here, because before that, I was doing everything. I was sending out mailers. I was driving for dollars. I took a radio mentorship. I was trying to get on the radio. Like I was doing so many different things, and I wasn't just focusing on one thing as far as lead generation goes. Then that's when I got the virtual assistant. I just started focusing on that, and she would generate me leads. I would manage the leads. I would follow up with them. Like I said, I had a couple of contracts, but they fell through. They just weren't deals. Actually, one of them, no, two of them were deals that I just didn't. I didn't know how to dispo. I didn't know how to go find a buyer, so the contract fell through. The other one just wasn't a deal. Um, and then 3 months goes by without any money coming in from having this virtual assistant generate me leads. And I get in the sub two, and I get on a call with Pace. And I explain Pace what I got going on, what I'm doing for lead generation and all that. He's like, "Oh, this is dope. You're actually generating leads. Good job. Why aren't you getting contracts?" I'm like, "I don't know. I'm calling these people, and I don't know. I'm just not getting contracts." He's like, "I think that you might have a conversion problem." And I'm like, okay, what does that mean? He's like, "In this business, it's super important to go figure out how to talk to sellers." So what he told me is, "Hey, go watch my sales training modules, go listen to a bunch of my seller calls, go role play with people in the mentorship in the morning, pretty much just go get good at talking to sellers." Finally, in the first 3 weeks of sub two, I locked up my first really good deal. And I probably would have just quit if that wasn't the case, because I truly believe at this point, me talking to sellers is what is making me money. It's what I'm the best at in the business. And I didn't even realize that until I got into sub two. So with all
Yeah.
that being said, in the beginning, I was doing everything. So let's fast forward like Let's fast forward like 5 months. 5 months goes by and I'm still doing everything. I get a couple deals under my belt. I start scaling up. I get like 3 virtual assistants and I'm doing it all on my own. Like I'm still managing the systems. I'm still coaching the VAs. I'm still doing all the things, right? I'm still trying to do dispo. I'm doing legitimately everything. And I was finding that I was being inconsistent. So I would go on a bunch of appointments and I would be inconsistent with my lead management. I would go on a bunch of appointments and I would be inconsistent with my systems or coaching or something like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it led to me only getting a deal every 6 weeks or something like that. And it wasn't super consistent. And then what happened is I found a partner. And my partner is really good when it comes to systems. He understands softwares really well. He understands analytics and numbers and KPIs and all these things that you need in order to operate the business. And once that happened, it was like release the chains. It released the chains from me. And I finally could just go do the things that I do best in the business, and that's talk to sellers. And that's what led to more deals every single month rather than just one every 6 weeks. But like I said, I think a lot of people will be like, hey, Sam, go find and we call this an integrator. Like Andrew, he's my business partner that I was just talking about. We call him an integrator, somebody that is doing all the integrations in the business and the operations and the systems and everything. And a lot of people would say, hey, Sam, go find an integrator and just have them generate you leads. I'm like, yeah, that's great. You could do that, but you got to figure out where Sam's at, right? Like if Sam needs money today, he's just got to go hustle and freaking get some money and contracts under his belt. That way leads start coming to him. And if Sam finds out that while he's doing this, like all the things in the business, if Sam finds out that his strong suit is going to talk to sellers, then yes, once you get a couple deals under your belt or a deal under your belt and you prove yourself as a closer, that integrator is going to now come into your life and release the chains. You know what I mean? Because if Sam's in the beginning and Sam doesn't really have any experience and he might not be so well versed in talking to sellers yet because he just hasn't had the experience in doing so, he's not going to provide the value to an integrator that the integrator would provide to him, because it has to be a value exchange.
Right. That makes sense. It's funny because all the stuff that I'm learning by learning real estate, it's applying to it's weird how it happened, but I also just started a startup with a mini bike business. It's an electric mini bike business, and I started making a team. Yeah, so it's Dingo Moto. If you guys are curious to check out, but I got a team together, and like I said, I'm not good with tech. I'm not good with computers. I forced myself to learn CAD and all these engineering programs, but finally, when I was able to build the actual bike, the actual concept, like you said, engineers started flocking. Like they started asking me that they wanted to work with me. Videographers, photographers, everything just started. Like you said, you just got to prove yourself that you could do it. And it's wild that you mentioned that because it just coincides with, I guess, any business, right? Like it's part of every business. You just got to put in the work and show that you actually could do it. Yeah, man. So another thing too, when I talk to these people, one of the things that I've noticed is, since I don't know how to, and you said you had that issue where you couldn't, or you just didn't know how to close or how to actually get the contract together to make it work for them and for you. That's one of the roadblocks I'm hitting right now. So I'm still learning. I'm watching a lot of Pace's stuff because I mean he's just straight badass, right? But even just learning with the online learning center at Clever, that confidence level is just getting up because I know there's creative financing. I know there's different forms of actually working with the seller to work it out so it could work for them, so they could be happy, and also for yourself. So yeah, that's another thing that I've learned. But yeah, man.
So yeah, it sounds like you want to be the closer in the business.
Yes, and it's like, funny I didn't mention it right now. Like, hey, that's cool because yeah, I like talking to people. I like building the relationship. I like the the face to face, or just even on the phone, just talking. Um, yeah, building that relationship, and yeah, just uh,
So are you in the sub two mentorship as well, or
no, not yet.
eventually?
I want to be though. I do. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna do it. I just at a Clever Summit, just the team, the group, the family is crazy. Just meeting all those people, and even how they were all open, even though I wasn't in it, just the way they
It's a
kind of
different
they're
vibe,
inviting.
right?
Everybody was inviting, and just big family. So I'm definitely gonna join it for sure. And
Love
but
that.
kind of like I said, right now it's kind of like a money situation. Like I got to make some money, got to lock up the first deal before I start making these other moves. But even then, I think I'm just gonna do it, and I know it's gonna work though. Like that's the thing too. Once you know it's gonna work, it's gonna work. Money's the after, you know. It's all gonna
Mhm.
come after. So I'm not even stressing about that. It's just that I have too much stuff going on right now that I need to systemize everything, you know. And that's why I
I
was
hear you.
asking about systems. You know, how did you manage? You know, how do you manage your VAs, your leads? What do you do? Is it phone call Tuesday, or you know, how does that work on your end? You know, but now that you tell me that you have a team, or you have a partner that you work with, that makes things a lot easier. Yeah. So
Um, so Kev asks on IG, how do I find more about sub two mentorship? Go to Pace Morby's YouTube page, and somewhere in there you'll probably see some links. But either way, you'll see a bunch of Pace's videos. And I think probably in the comments. I'm not too sure exactly where you would find the actual mentorship, but hang out in Pace's YouTube page and you'll find it. Um, what was I going to say? Okay, yeah. So what are you thinking as far from listening to the OLC modules? What do you think your route is to go to generate leads? And the reason why I ask is because in order to do this business, you have to generate leads. So
yeah, so
you have, and actually any business, you have to generate a lead. So
yeah.
what do you think your blueprint is to go generating leads? Is it cold calling and texting? Is it driving for dollars and door knocking? Is it sending
Yeah,
mailers? What do you think?
so right now I'm driving for dollars, like I mentioned, and I also I already have an order for banner signs. The what's it called? Yeah, the signs, the banner signs.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, even then, I'm probably gonna start mailing the houses that I found. I'm probably gonna start sending mails. There's a lot of ways to do it. I'm probably gonna start going to the county as well, just to see who's divorced, who's you know, stuff like that. See if I could pick leads that are not on the MLS or that no one's seen yet. But I think that's the strategy that I want to go to. I did mention that with all the stuff that's happening with the economy, um, there is going to be a lot of. I mean, who knows, right? But there's going to be a lot of
Oh, dude, it's
foreclosures.
coming. Actually, it's not even coming. It's
Yeah,
already here.
it's already here, yeah. So
It's
I want to
freaking
be able to
here.
help
Like
people out. So
hedge funds are pausing their
yeah,
buys. Foreclosures are up. Like this market crash is here.
it's here. Yeah, it's here. So
100%.
I want to
So
get on that too.
here's what it sounds like, Sam. It sounds like I'm listening to a younger version of Mike because Mike was thinking the same thing. Yo, go drive for dollars, go cold call, go send mailers, and go down to the county and stuff, right?
Yeah,
When literally, if I could scream to Mike, a younger version of myself, I would say, dude, just go pick one and keep doing it until it freaking sticks, until you get a damn deal, and then build out a team towards that strategy. You know what I mean? So with that being said, there's two things that you could have. You could either have time or you could have money, right? So
right.
if you have time, then what you could do is you could go cold call and do it on a consistent basis, maybe time block 2 hours out of the day and always cold call. Now, for me, I never did that. I was like, I would rather just hire a virtual assistant to do it. Um, or if you have the money, you go hire that out. You have a virtual assistant go cold call for you and you follow up with the leads. Same thing. If you have time, right, you can go drive for dollars and door knock. If you have
Right.
money, maybe you could hire somebody to do that. If you have if you have money, you can go send out mailers and just take the inbound thing. So you got to figure out where you're at. That way you can reverse engineer what your day to day looks like, as far as the lead gen side. But I definitely would pick one
Just
of
one.
those routes
Focus one
and
and
yeah,
attack.
just focus on one and just hammer it. So if
Okay.
it's cold calling and
Oh,
you're like, hey, I have all the time in the world, I'd love to sit on the dialer. Screw it. Like I'll sit on the dialer. Just sit on the dialer for 3-4 hours a day and do it every single day until you get
right.
a contract. And then once you get that contract, hire a virtual assistant to do the rest.
Okay. Cool, man. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like I said, that's why I called you because I'm sure. I mean, like I said, you're already doing it. I'm just starting, and I have the drive. The drive is there. It's just what path do I want to take? And like, I mean, you just mentioned it right now. I'm all over the place. This is stuff that they tell you, you know, generate leads this way. But I figure that if you just focus on one, it should work out. Yeah. So, and you just made it even more concrete, right? Just pick one and go with it. Yeah.
Because here's what happens when you do that too. You start being able to predict what's going to happen next. So if you're cold calling yourself for 3 weeks straight, boom, you get a deal. And then in another 3 weeks, boom, you get a deal. Then another 3 weeks, boom, you get a deal. You understand that, hey, if I cold call for 3 weeks straight, I'm probably going to get a deal. It's hard to do that when you're doing a bunch of different things. You can't track that. It's what we call KPIs, key performance indicators, right? If I do this
Right.
many dials, that's going to lead to this many leads. This many leads lands to this many contracts. And that's something that you can repeat. And that's
Right.
something that you can measure.
Okay. Definitely gonna do that, man. Yeah.
So that's why it's really tough when you're doing a bunch of things and you're trying to throw stuff at the wall and seeing if it sticks. You can't measure it because you're like, hey, yeah, I sent out 100 mailers yesterday and I cold called a few people the week before. And it's just, you know what I mean? It's not something that's a consistent thing that you can measure.
Right.
Like in order to measure, you have to have consistency.
You gotta be consistent. Yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense, man. Yeah. That's yeah, and that's why I reached out, man, because I was like, man, what's going on here? It's been what is it, 2 months, 3 months already? I'm like, okay, what am I doing wrong? You know, I'm talking to people, but I'm not executing. Like I've talked to a couple of owners, but it's not, you know, the confidence. They could, and I'm sure they could feel it in your voice when the confidence is not there. When, you know, it's body language. Cody was saying about body language, dress up, feel good on the phone when you're talking to somebody because they could sense it, you know. And I did that at night and day, man. Yeah, if you're
I
confident on the
love that
phone,
idea.
yeah, it's night and day. They you could tell they sense it, and it's you too, the way you carry yourself too, on the phone. So yeah, um,
Pace was just telling me about this. He was like, hey, my sales guys sometimes would be in the office and they would just be hanging out and the vibe wouldn't be there. And he'd come in the office and be like, dude, you guys gotta get up, like bring some freaking energy, right? Like
yeah,
get up, walk around with your headset and like do
yeah,
things. He was like, once I get into the office and I started talking to sellers, I'd be walking around, writing on the whiteboard, like bringing the freaking energy.
yeah.
So it is super important
It's
that you
key,
bring in
man.
the energy while you're calling, because if not, the seller fails you, just be like, all right, you
Yeah,
know.
your voice is low, monotone. They feel it when you don't have the energy. When yeah, so that's one of the biggest things I noticed. I think it was after the last call with the Avengers. I think Cody pointed that out. So um, yeah, man. So when did you get comfortable enough to do a flip project? Because you're doing flip projects now, right? I've seen
Very
you.
short ones.
Okay.
So anything like, especially novation agreements, very short novation agreements we would do,
Okay.
but expensive, especially now in this market. Hell no.
Yeah, you can
I
stop.
just don't like it because think about it, right? Like if we can make, let's just call it 20 grand on selling a contract, and maybe would make 50 grand on the fix and flip, but the fix and flip's going to take 4 or
Long.
5 months. I'd
Yeah.
rather just flip the contract and go find another deal.
Yeah,
It's
that's
just
great.
what we're good at. Like fix and flip is a whole different business. They're like two separate businesses, if that makes sense. So
Yeah,
for the perfect example, if the acquisitions business, which is the wholesale business, finds a project, right, that you want to do, what you can do is you can just assign it to your fix and flip business.
oh, okay.
That
Yeah.
makes sense?
Yep.
Because think about it, your wholesale business has employees, it has overhead from systems and all these things.
Yeah. Yep.
So you want to keep feeding the beast. So
Yeah.
you if you assign it to yourself, essentially, if you assign it to your acquisition business, let's just say Sam had Sam Acquisitions LLC and Sam Rehab LLC, right? Sam
Right.
Acquisitions LLC could assign that particular deal to Sam Rehab LLC, get an assignment fee, pay the sales guys, pay the virtual assistants, pay the systems and all that with that assignment fee, get some little money up front that way you can feed the family, and then do the rehab under the LLC. But truly treat it like two different businesses because it
Okay.
is.
So yeah. Okay. That makes sense, man. Yeah. All this stuff, I'm just learning it. Did you just learn as you went, or you actually? I mean, I know you're on sub two, and they teach you all this? Because all this stuff was unknown
Um,
to me. The LLCs, all that stuff. That's one of the reasons I'm grateful for being in the Avengers, because all this stuff, it was kind of like, even
yeah,
having
yeah.
my property under my name, no, like
Mhm.
it's a big risk, right? So right away, as once we had that meeting, I was like, oh, kind of make it an LLC and transfer it, because little things that you just don't know, man. It's wild. So do you just kind of like learn as you went, or you have like a
Yeah,
mentor that?
both.
Okay.
Yeah, I've learned as I went, but being in the right rooms like you're in, um, with these people that are doing that at a high level will just shorten the learning curve.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
I literally just did a post about this on social media today. I'm like, yo, there's so many things that have just been a blocker in my life where all I have to do is ask somebody that's been through it and it releases the blocker. So that shortens the learning curve. And obviously you get results much quicker. The more expensive and time consuming way to do it is just to go learn on your own. But both ways work. I mean, dude, there's things that you gotta go put your hands on the stove and get burnt
Make it
sometimes.
happen so you can learn. Yeah, that it's
You know what I
possible.
mean?
Yep. Yep.
It is a very, very expensive way to learn and it takes much longer, but there's just some things in life and in business that you gotta go touch the
Jump
pot.
on it. Yeah. Another thing too that I noticed, because I mean I grew up pretty poor, right? So just having that scarce mentality, even with money, kind of like the Avengers, it wasn't cheap, or like with Paces, of course, but investing on yourself, the way that kind of like when at the Clever Summit, I think that's where it clicked that, you know what, if I'm gonna invest on myself, this is where it's gonna be at. I mean, the people that were there and everybody that was gonna be there was right. So it felt right. I just had that intuition that it was right. But just in general, I've read books to join masterminds, to go to seminars. But every time I would see these seminars, they were like 2 grand, $1,000, $800. And in my head, it's like, man, that's a lot of money. I could do other stuff, with that money. And like you said, learn by myself. All this information is free on YouTube. Yet just being in the right room, like you mentioned, with the right people, it's a whole different dynamic. I mean, to me, it's way worth it. And I mean, if anybody's watching, or if there's people out there that are thinking about not investing in some of these seminars or groups, or these people, especially if there's a good crowd that you already know that they're doing big stuff. I mean, I think you guys should do it, man. And
Yeah, bro, 100%. Like
yeah,
for me, I was telling you earlier that I signed up for a radio ad mentorship.
yeah,
And I had such a stupid mindset where I was just like, oh, this thing stinks. Like this mentorship doesn't work. I wasn't working in the mentorship. That's why it wasn't working.
yeah,
You know what I mean? Because then I get into places like Sub 2 and the Avengers and stuff where I've literally already made my money back. I told Cody this. I was watching one of his videos on his perfect seller appointment. I went and did it and got the deal. I probably wouldn't have got that deal if I didn't use that thing. Literally, that was like a week after.
That's
A week after we get back from Clever, we will make $30,000 on the deal.
Yeah.
So literally, like, I just wasn't working in the other mentorship. So if you utilize it correctly and put it on yourself, like, yo, if I don't make my money back plus freaking 10 times more, it's my fault. It's not the mentorship.
You gotta put in your
Right. I'm not here to expect the mentor to freaking just drop a bunch of cash in my pocket. No, you gotta go work.
Right.
You know? Just 1 second to answer this question. Kev said, what's the number one lead generator for you? It is cold calling and text blasting. That is all we do at the moment. We are looking to do some inbound things, but cold calling and text blasting. But yeah, Sam, bro, it's so important getting in the right rooms. And to add to it, it's actually funny. The Avengers Mastermind, I wasn't gonna do it. I was sitting there. I'm like, all right, yeah, yeah, I'm not spending that right now. I really thought that. And my girlfriend was like, no, you're doing this. I'm like, no, listen, babe, I'm good. Like, we got some things coming up. I'd rather not spend the cash right now.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh no, you're doing it. And yo, she legit like forced me to freaking sign the paper and swipe my credit card.
Yeah. That's a keeper right there.
No, she is. She's the best. So literally, bro, I wasn't going to do it. And I had a little voice in my head say the next day that I just wasn't believing in myself. It was like, dude, you'll make this money back. It's only money, bro. You're gonna make it back times 10.
Yeah.
You just didn't believe in yourself. Go freaking believe in yourself, dog.
Yeah, that's exactly the way I thought, man. And yeah, I mean, and it's funny too, because like I said, it wasn't cheap, but just the way my mind started working, it's like, all right, like they're taking payment plans. Okay, how can I do this? Boom, boom, boom. So towards the end of the day, like the way you see it, I mean, like you said, you don't have the money. You were saying you didn't have the money, but the way I thought, I mean, I didn't have the money either, but in my head, I was like, all right, I could do this, put this on the credit card, I already have this cash, so that's half. You know what? And then after that, I mean, if it's that good, that's another thing too in my head. Like, if it's that good, and if I put in the work, and I see it, I mean, in the event, you saw it. I mean, it was working for people. So I'm like, if it's this good, it's gonna work. It's gonna work. I'm gonna make money.
Resourceful.
Yeah, exactly. So
that's it.
It was a no-brainer for me. Yeah.
There's this guy named Yahya Bakar, and he has a really good story. I would look him up on YouTube. He's a really cool dude too, and he talks about how in the beginning he's a public speaker, and he said in the beginning he didn't have any money, right? He dropped out of school and he just didn't have any money. So what he did is he got resourceful. He's like, okay, my homie's telling me to be a public speaker, but I don't even know how the heck to do that. There's this mentorship with Tony Robbins that's like $8,000 or something like that. I have no money. How the heck am I going to do this? And he literally said that I don't know if he cold called or text everybody in his phone and raised the money to do it. And now he has crushed it. His career has been amazing. And he's a really good freaking dude, but he talks about how it's just being resourceful. Like in that moment when his back was against the wall and he quit school, he had to go be resourceful and go raise the money. So it's like, you're going to make it happen. Just be resourceful, bro. And freaking. Exactly.
Yeah. So yeah, man, that's how I started. It's funny too, because I was a volunteer there. I was just going to go there for the experience and that's it, That's it. But something even before then, something told me to go to volunteer to that event. It was in Vegas, but yeah, it's a mental thing. It's a mental thing. Like I said, I didn't grow with even my family now. What I'm doing, like I don't work. I mean, I started my little startup, but I don't work full days. I get side jobs here and there. I'm a welder, so I'm a fabricator. So I get side jobs here and there, but now I don't have a full-time job, let's say, since I live off of the passive income. But even then, I gotta manage my money. Yeah, when I talk to my family or friends, they have their 9 to 5s. They have their, I guess you could say, like the standard way of living. Family, house, and that's it. And they see the way I'm 33 years old. I live in a container and I don't have a family. Most of my friends have a family, so they kind of see me as like, what are you doing with your life, right? But in my head, I already see it that I'm gonna do something big. It's not just gonna be me. I mean, I do want a family. I do want a home. I do see that in my future, but not yet. I still see something big in the future.
Bro,
And
you're a badass.
yes,
You took your money and spent it on a mastermind rather than spending it on a freaking single family house or something like all your buddies are doing.
right. Yeah,
Right? You could have used that money to go put on a down payment for a house. You honestly could have.
yeah,
But instead you're like, screw that. I'm gonna take the money. I'm gonna go get in the right rooms, and I'm gonna go figure out how to get 100 of those single family houses.
exactly. That's exactly what I thought in my. Yeah, that's exactly. Why not buy?
Mhm.
Like they say, you could give the person the fish, or I don't know. I'm probably gonna murder this quote, but you could give the person the fish, or you could show them how to, or you could show them how to fish and feed them forever, right? That's the way, kind of like how I thought, like kind of like what you
Yeah,
just said,
dog.
just learn the way of to do it, and then just keep doing it, keep bringing in that revenue, learn how to buy these houses, learn the steps that take, because there's also legalities, there's like law, like certain things you need to know before you could actually take those steps, and that's what I want to learn. Those are the little systems that I want to learn to actually make this happen. And just I see you, once you have the systems down, like you mentioned, you could just repeat it and you're gonna see results. And that's
Hmm.
kind of like where I'm at right now, So it's
So what do you think Sam's blueprint is from here on out? How does Sam take action in the next 2 weeks? Like, what does he have to do? What is he doing for lead generation? How is he getting himself better at closing? What are the steps you think?
yeah, I think we the lead gen is gonna be tough. I like driving for dollars, but that's time consuming. And I don't have time, right? So I might look into a VA just to get those numbers up. So I'm definitely going to look into a VA. I'm still going to drive for dollars, but it's not going to be. It's only going to be sectioned off in one of my days. Like I normally do it from 5 to 7 when people are getting home, and that's when I
Mhm.
see who's home, what houses are empty, and I could actually ask the neighbors what's up with that house. I've done it multiple times now. Like if nobody's, I knock on the door. If nobody's there, I go to the neighbor's house and ask them what's up what's going on with your neighbor's house. Do you know the owner? Do you have their phone number? I was able to get 3 phone numbers that way. So,
Oh,
but yeah, definitely VA. Yeah,
so you're thinking of getting a virtual assistant?
yeah, I'm probably gonna. Yeah,
When would you want to do that? Like ASAP?
yeah, ASAP. Yeah,
Okay, so
ASAP.
let's think about this.
Yeah.
If that's the road that you're going to go down, plan for like 3 to 4 months with no actual income coming in. Because
Okay.
here's what happens. The virtual assistant starts generating you leads, and it's amazing. You start, talking to sellers on your own, but you got to build your pipeline. And if you talk to leads today, those leads most likely won't convert for like maybe 60 days. So if you plan worst case, like, okay, let's just say virtual assistant is going to cost $1,000 a month. I'm going to spend $1,000 on systems, and then let's just say another $500 on miscellaneous or something. Let me make sure that I have 2,500 times 3 or 4 saved up. That way, I don't get to month 2 and I'm like, crap, I'm out of money and I don't have a deal yet. Right? So if that's the road that you're going to go down, and you're going to go down the road of using money to generate leads, I would just make sure that you plan for like 3 or 4 months with no money. Because here's what happens. If let's just say, for example, we get a contract today, that thing won't close for the next 30 days. That lead was actually generated like 2 or 3 months ago. It took a while to convert.
Okay. See, I didn't know that. So it
You know what I
takes a
mean?
while to convert all these leads. Yeah, I mean, for the
Mm-hmm.
owner to think about it, for the lead to close. Okay. Yeah. So that's a good advice that I didn't know. Look at that. Yeah. So I'm gonna write this down.
So if that's the case and you're like, I'd rather not plan for that, then I
Yeah.
would just take your driving for dollars strategy and do it consistently. And I would time block, because driving for dollars is a little bit more niche. It's a better list to cold call yourself if you're going to go cold call yourself. So I would take maybe 2 or 3 hours out of the day, whatever time that you have, take it, go drive for dollars. And you can actually, you don't even have to get in your car. You can do it on something called batchdriven.com. I think it's .com or .io. You can go to batchdriven and you can do this virtually. And you could literally go on Google Maps and add a bunch of properties into your system and then skip trace them and cold call them yourself. You can do that, or you can get out in the streets and get in the car and do it that way. But either way, I would go prospect and get your driving for dollar prospects in your pipeline every day for maybe 2 hours, and then another 2 hours out of the day dedicate just to calling them, and do that literally. Yep.
Okay.
And get a CRM. Like we use Podio. I don't really like Podio. We're gonna get away from it, but you could use a CRM. Actually, Deal Automator. You have access.
I have access to it.
So I would use Deal Automator or just CRM, and every single time that you get on the phone and you generate a lead, put it in your CRM and schedule a follow-up. And in the meantime, you want to get good at talking to sellers as well. So you're going to want to listen to all the sales training in the OLC. You're going to want to go to Pace's YouTube page and listen to his seller calls. And then one really good book to go read, if you want to write it down, is You Can't Teach a Kid to Ride a Bike at a Seminar.
That's the title. That's the title of the book?
Yeah.
Sweet, man.
So those, to get better at talking to sellers, I would go listen to other closers, whether it's their calls or their sales training, and you have access to that, which is dope. I would go read that book. That's like the book. That's like, that can be your Bible.
Yeah.
And then 3, you got to practice. And practice can be through role play with other people that are just getting started or whatever, right? But just practice. Actually, one way that I really got good at talking to sellers was I would hop on a call every day with somebody in the mentorship, and we would call each other sellers. I would call a seller, he would call a seller. I would call a seller, he would call a seller, and we'd give each other feedback. And that was one thing that really got us good.
Did you ever record your calls and kind of like pick at the way you're talking?
100%. That too.
I
literally used to video myself cold calling, and I would show it to my girl.
Okay.
And I'd be like, "Hey, babe, can we listen to this call?"
Yeah, man. Because I started doing that. Well, since day one, I started doing that, and it's night and day. You just kind of like, I noticed I used a lot, you know, like, so little things like that, you kind of catch yourself doing and feel conscious about it. Next time you call, you don't do it, and you're more. I mean, I noticed that I was more fluent, less, umish, you know, like not I wasn't doing none of that stuff anymore. Yeah, man, that's definitely gonna do that. Another thing too, I've seen a couple of your videos too, where you're calling your customer or the seller, and those help out a lot too. Like I watch Paces, and every call is different. That's another thing too. Every call is different. So
here's what happened with me. I was listening to all Paces stuff, all Paces calls, and I was trying to imitate exactly what the heck he was saying, and I wasn't being myself. Right. And this is part of your sales training that you'll figure out as you go along, especially after reading the book. But I wasn't being myself. I was trying to say exactly what the heck he was saying, and it just wasn't coming out natural. And it wasn't until I started listening to a bunch of other closers to where I was like, I can just make up my own shit.
Yeah.
I can just be Mike. If I just be Mike and abide by a structure, then I'll be fine. As long as I abide by a structure and I am myself on the calls, I'm going to be 100% fine. Now, the reason why I say the first thing is because if you don't abide by some structure, and you will see in that book what the structure looks like. If you don't abide by some sort of structure, then you are going to get caught in the prospect structure, because the prospect has their selling structure. When they're getting sold something, they have their things that they do. So if you're not following your own system, you're going to get your system.
Yeah, because they gave me the lead generator, like the little things to say when you're talking to a caller, like kind of like, to a seller. I'm not saying caller, to a seller, kind of like, oh, how does the house? Certain things you have to jot down to do it. But then I noticed that after I did it probably 20 times, I guess you could say you see the matrix, you kind of see them, you kind of already have it in your memorized, but you kind of like could mix it around, and it goes with the conversation a lot smoother. You don't sound like you're trying to throw a pitch. It sounds more natural. You throw the questions in the conversation, and it sounds a lot more natural. That's one of the biggest things I noticed just by doing it by myself and doing it often. That you get it, like you said, you have a structure. You just kind of like integrate it in the conversation, and it sounds a lot more like a natural conversation. Yeah. So
Love
yeah,
it, bro.
definitely. I'm gonna have to read this book. Yeah, I'm definitely gonna have to read
It's
this
a
book.
really good book. It's life changing. It'll be your sales Bible, 100%.
Sweet, man.
But yeah, bro, do you have any more questions for me?
I think that's gonna be it, man. Uh, Sticky note full of questions, and you went through them all the way. So that's pretty good, man. I think that's it. If I do need anything else, I'll reach out via
Reach out to me, bro.
man. And like I said, I really appreciate you helping me out and just yeah, like I said, this is my beginning, and I really
Let's go. I'm excited for you, bro.
Yeah. So
the fact that you're an Avengers is really, really dope.
Yeah, when I get the
you're a badass.
I'll reach out, man, and let you know.
How do people find you?
I'm on Instagram at Sam's_Hubble, and that's where I reached out to you. I also have a Facebook, Samuel Flores Romo, and I'm most active on my Dingo page, the Dingo Moto USA page. That's my startup. If you guys want to check it out, it's electric mini bikes. They're pretty cool looking, and I just started it. They're all hand built here in California by my team, and they're pretty cool. Pretty cool bikes. Yeah, they're fast, so I sell them as art. They're art pieces. They're not meant to be ridden. But
can you ride them?
Yeah.
You can drive them.
You can ride them. Yeah, we recommend not to ride them because they're so fast. They go 55 plus miles per hour. Yeah, so they're quick. But you could the range on them. I live in Riverside, and LA is probably like 50, 60 miles away from me. I could probably ride it all the way to LA on a single charge. So that's badass. Yeah, so they're pretty cool little toys.
That's dope.
So yeah, that's where and I also have a YouTube page, but it's mainly for the mini bike page. It's kind of like I'm building the real estate stuff right now. Yeah, that's yeah. So, but yeah, those are the main two spots that you guys can find me. Yeah, man.
Love it. So cool, fam. If you guys got any value from this, please share it with a friend. Be like, hey, you need to listen to this. Bring some value to people. Let me know what you need, if I can help, or how we work together, how we work with Sam, what we can do. But thank you so much for watching. Sam, hang on for a little bit here. I'm going to end the podcast.